Yesterday, Sayadaw spoke about the 5 factors that are called Padhaniyanga, the 5 factors of striving. They're the qualities of a yogi who is working according to the instructions that such a yogi develops because one practices overcoming the rule of kilesas and trying to gain true happiness. So these 5 factors that a yogi striving for happiness are, first of all, faith. Second, health. Third, honesty. Fourth, ardent effort. And fifth, seeing the fast arising and passing away of mental and physical phenomena, mind and matter, or nama and rupa, which are related by cause and effect. So these are the 5 factors of one who is striving to gain true happiness. And there are 4 kinds of faith. Ordinary people may have 2 of these 4 types of faith, and some people have no faith at all. So this is what Sayadaw wants to speak about today. Faith, or saddha, is explained in the text as being of 4 kinds. And these are, first of all, agama, faith, agama saddha, A long A, G, A, M, A. And then second, adhigama saddha, that is adhigama. 3, okappana saddha, that is okkapana. And pasada saddha, pasada. So among these 4 kinds of faith, the first, agama saddha, occurs in beings such as the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, or Pacceka Buddhas, silent Buddhas, or in the disciples. And these beings performed a special type of dana, act of generosity, during the time of a previous Buddha, and received that Buddha's prediction of when they would become a chief disciple, or a silent Buddha, or a Bodhisattva, or the Buddha themselves. More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha Gautama arose in the world. In a time long ago, long before that, under the Buddha Paramudra, he donated his bodily strength. He donated his body. And that Buddha predicted that this being will become the Buddha Gautama 91 world cycles later. And from that time, this is what is meant by receiving the prediction of a previous Buddha. And from the time of receiving that confirmation, the Buddha to be developed the paramis, special qualities, and the type of faith that this being has going through all these, all the time, from the point of getting the confirmation to the being becoming the Buddha. That type of faith is called agama saddha. Adhigama saddha, the second type of faith, is the type of faith that arises in beings who practice the practice of Vipassana, like we are. And developing knowledge stage by stage, these beings go from observing the continual stream of mental and physical phenomena, nama and rupa, that is called pavata, to apavata, where this stream of mental and physical phenomena dies down. It passes away, and when it does, one comes to see Nibbana with the path and fruition knowledge. These people are called Arya. Arya means noble, but the literal meaning, we translate it into English as noble, but its meaning is pure and clean. And because of this purity, these beings are excellent. So it has these two meanings. So this type of faith arises in beings who are Arya, or noble, Sotapannas, Sakadagami, Anagamis, and Arahants. They have special faith due to their practice. So this faith is called a faith that is possessed. One possesses this faith firmly. The yogis now are observing all the time, in order to gain this type of knowledge and this type of faith. The yogis are observing all the time in order to develop this, observing one moment after another. And knowledge develops stage by stage. With the three trainings, when the three trainings come to completion, then the kilesas are dispelled. The gross kilesas, or mental defilements, transgressive defilements, are destroyed by the training of sila. The obsessive defilements, or kilesas in the mind, are destroyed by the training of samadhi, concentration. And the very seeds, the potential for kilesas to arise, is eliminated completely by the training of panya. So when one's Vipassana knowledge becomes complete, because one knows in a penetrating way, one gains this adhigama sada. Okapana sada is one's own faith. It's faith, one's own individual faith. So this may be in the qualities of the Buddha, the virtues of the Dhamma, or of the Sangha, or of things, other things too, that are called worthy of faith. They are believable, trustworthy. For example, cause and effect. Due to causes, there are results. So this is something that is possible, believable. And when one comes to see it through practice, then one's faith increases. One knows directly, and therefore one has faith that is combined with knowledge. And this type of faith with knowledge, or sometimes called informed faith, is okapana sada. To explain, the Buddha has many virtues, many special qualities, and one of them is this word, is expressed by the word Buddha. And this word has a hidden meaning. Its hidden meaning is one who knows for himself the truth of suffering, the truth of its cause. When an object arises, taking pleasure in it, tanha, craving, and the cessation, the coming to an end of both the truth of suffering and its cause. This is called Nirodha Satya, the truth of cessation. And last of all, the path which leads to the cessation of suffering and its cause. And this is what the yogis are practicing now, this path. One sees these four truths with path knowledge. But now, yogis are practicing, and this path is called the forerunner path, Pobhagamaga. It's the path that precedes the noble path. Only when Vipassana knowledge develops stage by stage will the noble path arise and one come to see the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha taught these, and only after he knew for himself did he teach others. What he taught, he didn't make up. He also didn't read it in a book. He didn't learn about it from somebody else. It wasn't passed down by tradition. Because he practiced himself, he walked the straight path, this forerunner path, Pobhagamaga, noting every rising object. And Vipassana knowledge developed in him stage by stage, and he gained the noble path, the Arya path. If one walks this path, one can gain the noble path. So one believes this. This is something one believes. Buddho so bhagava bodhaya dhammande seti. The Buddha knew for himself. He knew the Dhamma for himself, and only after he knew for himself did he teach. He did not teach before he knew. Yogis are now practicing this forerunner path in order to know the Four Noble Truths. That the Buddha taught. He taught with karuna, metta and karuna, loving kindness and compassion. If we follow this path that the Buddha taught, we will reach Nibbana. And an example of the process of following the path and realizing Nibbana is, if you consider a bureaucracy or a government. And in the government there are many departments. And so in a department there's a department head. And the department head has workers in the office that are performing various tasks. Researching, writing, preparing things. And only when all these workers have to complete their individual tasks. And then it goes to the department head for approval. And only when the department head signs and stamps the paper is it official. So there's a lot of work that goes on to prepare this document, but to make it official only takes a second. The act of the department head stamping and signing the paper. So this is similar to how we come to know the Four Noble Truths. In an office, the workers have to do the work, and only when their work is finished does the boss sign. And it just takes a second for that to happen. The yogis are practicing, and with the practice, they're developing knowledge stage by stage. This is like the work in the office. All this groundwork has to be done. Stage by stage, the knowledge has to be developed. And when that work of developing knowledge stage by stage is done, then one will see Nibbana, and that only takes a second. So the Buddha taught the method for doing this. He only taught after he knew. He didn't teach until then. And This is the type of quality that the Buddha has. To draw an analogy, or to compare this faith, given another way to show it, there are many scientific methods used in the world today. And these are put to use, and some bring benefit, and some bring harm. So what we know in science now is based on previous scientists, what they found. And the things that people found in early days are used by later generations of scientists. So, as far as the method of practice, in science, if I understood correctly, is there such a thing as a first person to develop science, develop a scientific idea? So with the kilesas, mental defilements, there is a method to dispel the gross transgressive defilements, physical and verbal misdeeds, and to dispel the medium grade ones that obsess in the mind and the refined ones that lie dormant. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha found this path. He found this path for eliminating mental defilements for himself, and he taught it. And because of his having discovered the path, the trainings, and taught it, there are a series of people, beings, since the time of the Buddha who have practiced these trainings from that time up until now. So in science, when we apply a teaching from science, put it to use, and we find something that's true, then we come to accept. We say, oh, this is valid. So this too is faith. Dhamma, the Dhamma, is something which bears and protects the one who practices according to the instructions of the Dhamma. And those who practice according to the Dhamma and realize knowledge, these are the Sangha, Savaka, the ones who listen, who have listened to the instructions of the Buddha. The Buddha instructed, these things should be avoided. Don't do them. And those things should be done. You should do them. And he taught how to avoid things that should be avoided, and how to accomplish things that should be done. The Buddha's disciples, the Sangha, listen respectfully and carefully and put into practice what they learn. And then they gain true happiness. So this is the quality of the Sangha. They are said to be supatipanna. That means they walk the correct path and reach the correct destination. So this is a quality of the Sangha. And when one hears about something like this, then one says, it's true. One understands that it is true because one sees the validity of it based on cause and effect. One makes a decision based on understanding. And this is called Okappana Sada. The Sangha is the group of people who followed the instructions of the Buddha. If you do that, if you do these types of misdeeds, then these bad results will come. If you undertake these good things, then good results will come. So the Buddha gave the method, he taught the method for avoiding what should be avoided and undertaking what should be undertaken. He knew himself, and after he knew for himself, he taught. And in teaching, he didn't have any aim of gaining praise from the students or of getting gifts. He didn't want that. His intention was that if people don't know about this, if they don't know about this method, then they won't walk this good path, this good and straight path. So with the wish that they be happy, that they gain happiness by following the path, he taught out of great compassion. This is something that we should understand. And this Buddha who taught in that way is among the things that are worthy of faith. The Dhamma which he taught is good on hearing it. It brings clarity. The mind becomes clear just on hearing it. And when putting it into practice, one gains happiness. When one reaches the end of the path, one gains nibbana. If one practices, one will realize this for oneself. So those who are practicing respectful are the Sangha, the Savaka Sangha. Savaka means those who are listening respectfully and practicing respectfully. So one can't listen disrespectfully. One shouldn't listen with a lot of questions like, what is it? Why is it? Or with the aim to criticize what one hears. One also shouldn't listen without faith. One should listen with the intention to practice according to what one hears. Sakachan sunanti. To the extent that one practices according to the instructions, the kilesas, the mental defilements, which have been following us throughout lifetimes, start to show a minus sign. They become reduced. So this is something we should understand. If one practices according to the instructions of the Dhamma bears that person. So one needs to understand this quality of the Dhamma. Listening to the Buddha, the words of the Buddha with respect, and practicing respectfully are the true savakas, true disciples. If one doesn't practice, one can't be this type of savaka, disciple. But if one practices this practicing according to the instruction, one becomes a part of the Sangha, the group of ones who practice, listen respectfully and practice respectfully. Faith takes this group, the Sangha, as its object. Faith is awakened by hearing about the qualities of the Buddha, by hearing about the qualities of the Dhamma or of the Sangha, or by hearing about lifetimes, or about cause and effect, about understanding this to some extent, to whatever extent possible. And this awakened faith is called Okapana Sada. When one hears about the qualities of the Buddha, or of the Dhamma, or of the Sangha, these things that are truly worthy of faith. When one knows about these, one's faith becomes firm and it withstands opposition. This is called asala. It doesn't waver. But some people find it hard to believe in individuals. So, for that reason, one needs to understand then the quality of the Dhamma that the Buddha taught. We need to know, if we don't have faith in individuals, then we need to understand the virtue of the Dhamma. This practice of satipatthana that we are doing now is the one sure path to gain 7 benefits, starting with purity of mind. This is what the Buddha stated. And if we do this practice, the Buddha said to do it and see for oneself. The Dhamma of the Buddha is well preached, svakato bhagavata dhammo. This means that when we practice according to what the Dhamma says, the results that we get are consistent with the practice that we do. So when we practice the Dhamma, our faith awakens further. So knowing about these things which are trustworthy, worthy of faith, our faith wakes up. But after, just like when a person wakes up, if they don't have anything to do, they will just go back to sleep. So too with our faith. Once our faith is awakened by hearing about things, then we need to put that faith to work. So we take sila, we keep the moral precepts, and we observe every arising object. So we understand that doing this, keeping sila and observing every arising object, is good to do. So this is like a tree that we've planted. We have faith that doing this is a good thing to do. But we need to protect our plant. And sila, keeping the precepts, is like a fence around a tree. And by observing every arising object through the practice, when one sees results, when one starts to see the benefits of doing this, such as the mind becoming clean, then one realizes, oh, this is true. This is valid. And when one sees the distinction between mental and physical phenomena, nama and rupa, or mind and matter, one's faith increases further. And when one comes to see the fast arising and passing away of nama and rupa, mind and matter, which are related as cause and effect, one's faith becomes decisive. One is sure. This is adimauka sada. So our faith, the faith that is awakened, has to be planted and nurtured, just the way a tree has to be, a young sapling or seed has to be planted and then nurtured. And this awakened faith is developed and made strong through the practice. Those who have little faith in individuals don't want to reflect on the qualities of the Buddha, or they don't want to reflect on the qualities of the Sangha. But they should understand about the qualities of the Dhamma. And when one sees for oneself through the practice that the results are consistent with what one is doing in the practice, then one comes to have faith in the Dhamma and also faith in the quality. When one practices and realizes the benefits, one also comes to have faith in the qualities of the Buddha who taught the Dhamma. And with faith, one will practice respectfully, meticulously, and continuously, all the time one is awake. If one isn't doing that, it means that one does not really have faith at this point. If one has not come to the point where one is practicing respectfully and meticulously, it means one doesn't have faith in the Dhamma or the Buddha, the Sangha. People with little faith, they look here and there, and this looking around is just a waste of time. So it shows that the person does not have faith if they don't practice with respect for the instructions. The last type of faith is called Paṇḍitā Sayadaw. And this is the faith that arises when we see something. And just by seeing the appearance, our mind feels clear. Or hearing a sound, just by hearing the sound, the mind becomes clear. Knowledge is not involved, but the mind becomes clear. So this is called Paṇḍitā Sayadaw. And of the four, the practical type of faith is Okapana Sayadaw. It's the one that is developed, that grows stronger and stronger through the practice. And we are practicing because of this faith. We are practicing with this faith in order to gain the Adhikama Sayadaw, the faith that comes from realization of path and fruition. So Sayadawji will continue this topic the day after tomorrow. There won't be any talk tomorrow. That's all for today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.